Queers and Strings, Nameless Potato here. Welcome to the 6th episode of an educational series here on this channel, Aequalitatem, an LGBTQ plus educational video series. This series will consist of 8 videos covering the following topics: LGBTQ plus history, sexualities, romantic identities, gender identities, queer representation, relationships, LGBTQ plus discrimination / gatekeeping, and how to be a good ally. This episode we'll be talking about relationships, different types of relationships, communications, positive relationship goals, and relationship warning signs. The goal of this series is to educate people about the LGBTQ plus community to encourage acceptance and understanding of those who may seem different than the norm. The name of the series, Aequalitatem, means equality in Latin, and that is what we're promoting in this series. This series is written by an American, and therefore we'll be focusing more from an American point of view. All of these sources used in these videos will be available down below, so I encourage you to check them all out for yourselves. I will also be doing my best to answer any questions you put in the comment section below. There will be some triggering topics in this video, so I'll be putting out trigger warnings before the parts discussing them with a timestamp to avoid it. This video will be a lot less LGBTQ plus focused as videos up until now, because we are talking about relationships. Relationships are complicated, and they can become toxic very quickly. Toxic relationships can cause depression, anxiety, stress, and health issues. It is important to be able to recognize warning signs of a possibly toxic relationship, whether romantic or platonic. But what do those words mean? And what are the different types of relationships? There are 3 main forms of relationships, and they are romantic, platonic, and familial. At its core, any relationship can be boiled down to one of these. A romantic relationship involves people dating and or being romantic. While there is not a sexual connection required to have a romantic relationship, in most cases there is one. A platonic relation is friendship. This does not have any sexual connection and does not involve actions typically connected to those who are romantically in love, kissing, etc. Finally, familiar relationships are relationships you form with your family. This kind of relationship involves a lot of protectiveness, trust, and can be insanely frustrating. Communication is insanely important in any relationship. Communication is defined as, begin quote, a process by which information is exchanged between individuals through a common system of symbols, signs, or behavior, end quote. Communication can help fix misunderstandings and resolve conflict without any lasting damage to the relationship and minimal feelings hurt. It can also deepen one's connections with someone as well as build trust. It helps people understand and show that nobody in the relationship is alone. Without communication, a lot of what we have in the world would not exist. Communication is necessary in all walks of life, from a classroom to a group on a camping trip. A relationship without effective communication is like a well without water. It's useless. A relationship can quickly turn toxic, as without communication, conflicts won't get resolved and can deeply hurt those involved. I keep throwing around the terms toxic or positive relationships. What do they mean? A positive relationship is a healthy relationship in which the needs of all involved are met. A positive romantic relationship includes partners being on the same page in all aspects of the relationship, whether it's the future, present, or goals. Communication is a big part of a healthy relationship. Positive relationships also involve trust and a lot of it. In a positive relationship, you can feel comfortable being yourself and talking to your partner or partners about anything, the good or the bad. Another important part of a healthy relationship is having your own identity. Just because you're in a relationship with someone doesn't mean that you and your partner or partners are the same person. Keeping your own values, motivations, and goals is crucial. Quality time is another sign of a positive and healthy relationship. If you enjoy spending time with someone, it means you're comfortable around them. It's also important to have healthy time apart in a relationship too, however. Everyone needs a break in their own space, even with someone you love. Being too clingy or too absent are both warning signs of a toxic relationship, which we will talk about in a minute. People in a toxic relationship also help each other grow and talk for encouragement and support. In a relationship, it's important that you are able to communicate what your basic needs are and discuss with your partner or partners so that all of your needs can be fulfilled within the relationship. Another major part of a healthy relationship is being able to respect each other's differences and being able to compromise. Everyone is bound to have differences, but that doesn't mean that they are a bad person. But what about a toxic relationship? These types of relationships, according to psychology today, are categorized as abusive power and control, selfishness, demandingness, insecurity, negativity, self-centeredness, unnecessary criticism, jealousy, dishonesty, demeaning comments or an attitude, and distrust. A lot of toxic behaviors can be passed down from parental figures and may be unintentional on the part of the toxic person. However, this doesn't excuse their behavior, and it's important to let the person know that their actions are not okay. Some signals of a toxic relationship are isolation, constant disagreements, blaming, jealousy, dishonesty, denial, gaslighting, and constant compromising. When a partner begins to separate a partner or partners from their friends or family, this is a big red flag that the person may be abusive and or toxic. Abusers often isolate their partners as a way of controlling them. After all, it's much easier to control every waking moment of someone's life if they have no one else to talk to or confide in. It also makes the victim feel like the only person that they have is the abuser, and if they left them, they would be all alone. Conflicts and arguments are normal in relationships. After all, no one is going to get along all the time. However, if the conflict seems to override the happy moments, the relationship is probably not one you want to be in long term. This is because extending conflicts can damage your mental state, causing depression, anxiety, and more. A toxic person has no sense of personal responsibility or negative things and events in a relationship, says Psychology Today in their article about toxic relationships. A toxic partner will often refuse to take responsibility for an argument or upsetting event within the relationship. They will deny their part and often gaslight the other person or people, convincing them that the bad thing was all their fault and they should have done better. This is also often seen in parent-child relationships. Dishonesty is a sign of a toxic relationship because how can you fully trust someone who is actively lying to you? This causes trust issues which can affect someone for the entirety of their life. Finally, if you are constantly compromising to please the other person or people in the relationship, this is a sign of manipulation and abuse. Compromises are important, but if one person is constantly doing things to please the other person, they're in a toxic relationship. This is because each partner should contribute to the relationship equally, and this includes compromises. If you're unsure about if you're in a toxic relationship or not, it is important to ask the following questions to yourself about how you feel about the relationship. Number one, are you physically or emotionally drained while or after spending time with your partner or partners? Two, do you often feel bad about yourself after spending time with this person? Three, do you feel like you're always putting so much into the relationship but not receiving anything back? Four, do you feel shunned or like an outsider after spending time with this person or people? Five, do you feel isolated from your friends and or family because the person or people don't want you to talk to them? Six, do you feel emotionally or physically unsafe after or during spending time with this person or people? Seven, do you feel fearful of this person or people? If you answered yes to any of these questions, it might be best to discuss the issues with your partner or partners if that is an option. If you feel unsafe or in danger around this person, the best thing to do is to contact local authorities if you are in immediate danger. It is also important to distance yourself from a possible toxic partner if this is an option. If you are unable to talk to the person about how you feel in the relationship, leaving the relationship may be your best option. First big step in getting out or fixing a toxic relationship is to recognize you are in one. Those within toxic relationships are often in denial that their partner or partners could ever be toxic. After all, I've been with this person for so long and they've always been like this. It's just how we are. It's no big deal. Once you've recognized that you're in a negative relationship, you should try to talk to your partner about your feelings if it is safe. Psychology Today recommends using I statements like, I feel like you don't respect me. I feel like you always blame everything on me, etc. If this strategy fails, it may be time to consider leaving the relationship or distancing yourself from the person as much as possible. If you are in a toxic or abusive relationship, you are not alone. The American CDC says that every minute, 20 people are a victim of physical abuse by a romantic partner. Mental Health Net surveyed 571 people who were or are in abusive relationships. 55% of the respondents said that they entered a toxic relationship between the ages of 17 and 25. Both men and women were surveyed, as abuse does not discriminate. Anyone can be a victim or abuser. Abuse doesn't have to be physical, it can also be emotional or verbal. 20% of the participants reported their partner controlling their time with their friends, and 17% reported their parents controlling where they could go or what they could do at any given point. 18% reported partners insulting their intelligence, and 7.6% had parents who insulted their finances. 57% of respondents felt unsafe in their current relationship. 50.77% of those were men, and 49.23% were women. 87% of the respondents reported feeling unsafe in previous relationships. Men made up 36.45% of that number, and women made up 63.55%. When asked if a current partner had ever physically harmed the participants, the responses were about 50-50 for each sex. When asked if a past partner had ever physically harmed the participants, women responded yes 77.67% of the time, and men responded yes 22.33% of the time. On screen is a word chart created using words from the participants' answers on about why they stayed in an abusive relationship. The bigger the word, the more it was said. Upon closer inspection, we can see that the words love, child, afraid, family, relationship, financial, and married were used a lot by participants. Participants were often scared of allowing their children to grow up in a broken home and see no way out that doesn't hurt their children or make the situation worse. Low self-esteem was also a big reason, with one participant claiming, quote, "I don't believe I am good enough for anything else," end quote. The most common length people spent in the toxic relationship was 1 to 3 years, with 42.11% of respondents reporting being in a toxic relationship within this time frame. Sexual orientation can also play a part in abuse. Heterosexual people are not the only people who face relationship abuse. Quote, "Homosexual and bisexual people experience intimate partner violence at rates equal to, and in many cases higher than, that of heterosexual individuals," end quote. At mentalhealth.net in their report on survey results, 44% of lesbian women experience stalking, physical violence, and even rape by an intimidating. 44% of lesbian women experience stalking, physical violence, and even rape from an intimate partner in their lifetime. This is much higher than the 35% of heterosexual women that face these conditions. The rate of violence for men is 24% higher for bisexual men compared to heterosexual men. Teens also face dating violence. Almost 1.5 million high school-aged kids are physically abused by a partner in the U.S. in a year. 1 in 3 girls in the U.S. is a victim of physical, emotional, or verbal abuse by a dating partner. 33% of teens in an abusive relationship told anybody about it. 81% of parents believe dating violence is not an issue, or admit they don't know if it is an issue. 50% of young people who experience a form of physical or sexual abuse will attempt suicide. Of male high schoolers who experience sexual or physical abuse from a partner, 1 in 4 have seriously contemplated suicide, and almost the same amount have attempted it. In a national online survey of parents with children 11 to 18 years old, nearly half had not discussed dating violence with their child in the past year. The quote-unquote reasons parents did not discuss dating violence with their kids included that they thought their children was too young to talk about it. They would not know what to say, and their children would learn about it through experience. Almost 1 in 11 females and 1 in 15 males in high school reported experience of physical dating violence. 1 in 9 females and 1 in 36 males in high school experienced sexual dating violence. 1 in 3 young people will be in an abusive relationship. These numbers are astronomically high, considering educating the youth about healthy relationships and ways to avoid toxic relationships and dating violence can reduce the amount of dating violence by 60%. Dating violence and abuse are a problem for everyone. Anyone can become a victim of dating violence, no matter your age, gender, sexuality, etc. We all need to work together to stop dating violence. By educating people about the signs of dating violence, we can better train the younger generations to recognize it and be able to get out of the situation or talk to someone they trust. Dating violence is a serious issue that has gotten way out of hand. By just simply talking about it to people and educating others about the warning signs of a toxic relationship. As I said before, we can reduce dating violence by 60%. Simply talking about it can help people. People have buried the topic of relationship abuse as it has been seen as taboo, which has caused victims of dating violence to be shunned or looked down upon. We as a society need to stop this avoidance and normalize education on dating violence. If you don't, the numbers will keep increasing until there's nowhere left to go. On that dark note, this concludes episode 6 of Aequalitatem, an LGBTQ plus educational video series. As stated earlier, all resources used will be in the description below. Feel free to comment down below any criticisms, questions, or anything I left out. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Bye.